today we will conclude our study of SD 48.1 on karma and the afterlife. There will be two parts. The first part is we will look at how the early Buddhist teachings tell us about mourning, and then we finish off with some closing remarks on what survives death. Nowadays, when we hear about death, we often also hear about the family, the bereaved family, mourning their loss or losses. And very often there's a lot of sadness and lamentation and so on. Now if you have lived in some Buddhist countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar or Thailand, well, I lived in Thailand for 5 years, and one of the things that struck me about a funeral or a situation where someone has died are that the Thais tend to use bright colors. In fact, their predominant colors are red and gold. Even the coverings of the coffin are in beautiful red and gold in the traditional Thai design, lots of flowers, and they play beautiful music. So the idea was basically to have this ambience of joy. And in fact, in the villages, or if the family can afford it, they would play all-night movies, some favorite shows for the villagers, for the people around to come and watch and be happy. In a sense, this is the way they keep wake, kind of keep guard of the remains of the deceased. So, in a certain way, death is, you might say, just as we are born, the family celebrates. So when a person passes away, the family celebrates too, in a sense that this person is moving on to the new life. And as we well know, Buddhists believe in rebirth, so death is not the end, but it is a kind of new beginning. This person has to live because his body has ceased functioning, and then in the future, these loved ones will meet again. So there is this idea of saying goodbye, or rather not saying goodbye, rather saying farewell to each other. Whereas if you look at many of the local practices, the traditional Chinese, a lot of crying and noise. We might say the word cacophony actually explains the situation very well. So here we have a story, a typical story of how a family mourns the death of one of their beloved members. And this is from, actually looked at, there are two versions here, the same story with two different names. It's called Uraga Jataka, J354, and it's also called Uraga Peta vatthu, PV 1.12. So this is in section 8.3.2, page 49. The story here is that the Bodhisattva was once born as a farmer, and he's married, he has a wife, he has two children, a son and a daughter. The son grows up, gets married, so he has a wife, and and there is a female servant, so together 6 of them in the family. And they have a small farm and they take care of the farm. And the story goes that one day the son was bitten by a snake and the son dies. So the father, is the Bodhisattva, goes to work as usual and he finds the son dead. I would say, yeah, he does feel sad, or maybe he's of such a spiritual level that he understands this nature of death. So he does not lament, he does not cry, he does not kind of make a fuss of the death, What he does is he mindfully carries the body of his dead son, puts the remains under a tree, and covers him with a cloak respectfully. So he neither mourn nor cry. He was mindful of impermanence. So he took this moment to reflect on where life moves on, and life is impermanent, and so on. And this is the reflection he does. It's something very instructive for us. The Bodhisattva reflects that which is subject to breaking up has broken up. That which is subject to death is dead. All conditioned things are transient and liable to death. So this is a reflection in impermanence. And so this goes on, and in this kind of situation, as we know, it's very special. It's not something which we see today, very rare, except, as I said, if it is in a Buddhist country. So here, this wonderful event did not go unnoticed. And remember, this is Jataka story. So this is where such an action of great virtue threatens the position of the king of the gods himself, Sakra Devanaminda. So Sakra's seat warms up. In other words, he becomes uncomfortable. There's a kind of warning that someone on earth is or will be ready to take over his position. So he plays this role of someone who comes down to test the sincerity of this family that's or this person that's doing this good deed. So he comes down disguised as an old Brahmin, and then he questions each of the family in turn. So this Jataka is effectively a reflection of impermanence, with each of the family member giving his or her reflection. So Sakra goes to the Bodhisattva and asks, why do you not weep? Your child has died, why do you not cry? Now the title of this Jataka, as you know, is the Uraga Jataka, the snake Jataka, because the starting word here is Uraga, meaning the snake. So the Bodhisattva replies, Urago wa tachang jinnang hitva gacchati santanum evang sarire nibhoke pete kalakate sati. Just as a snake sloughs off its worn out skin, having discarded that body, it goes its way. Even so, the body is of no more use to the departed who has done his time. What is burning knows not the lamenting of relatives. Therefore, we sorrow not in this. He fares to his destiny. Right, so it is the Bodhisattva's reflection. Now, then Sakra goes on to ask the wife. Ask the wife, why don't you cry? Why you're not sad? And wife reflects that the wife's reply is another reflection, a well-known reflection on death. Uncalled he came thence, unbidden he's gone hence. As he has come, so he is gone. So what is there to lament? What is burning knows not the lamenting of relatives. Therefore we sorrow not in this, he fares to his destiny. So here again there is this understanding that, yes, well, the time has come for this son of ours. He has passed on, let's move on to a new life. Then Sakra goes on to ask the sister, says, lady, what was the demand to you? Because the sister says, he was my brother, and why you're not crying? Asked Sakra, and she replies, if I weep, I would be thin. What reward is that for me? There would be even more pain for relatives, friends, and comrades. What is burning knows not the lamenting of relatives. Therefore, we sorrow not in this. He fares to his destiny. So here we see a refrain, the last two lines, what is burning knows not, the lamenting relatives, and so on. So this is a sort of a young person's reflection. And then he asks the dead son's wife, what about you? Well, why don't you feel sad? Why don't you mourn and cry? And she replies, just as a boy is desiring the moon, goes about wailing, this too happens to those who mourn the departed. What is burning knows not the lamenting of relatives, therefore we sorrow not in this, he fares to his destiny. So here, of course, there's an imagery, a famous imagery here, a boy crying for the moon. I mean, you can cry for the moon, but the moon is out there, you can't really get it, you can't reach it. So he has moved on. There's nothing we can do about it. It's the nature of life, we should accept it. So finally Sakra asks the servant, he says, what about you, how do you feel? Now the servant, imagine the whole family, the living family, they have reached such a level of spiritual development that they are all able to reflect on this, what we see as a very sad moment. So the servant reflects, just as a broken pot cannot be put together again, even so it is here when we lament the departed. What is burning knows not the lamenting of relatives, therefore we sorrow not in this, he fares to his destiny. So here again we have this reminder that death is something we cannot change, we have to accept, it's the nature of life itself. It's a package deal. When you fly, you have death too. So these are some worthwhile reflections to do, to have kind of a healthy attitude towards death. Of course, this should be done in connection with the previous talk, the one before this, on the Uraga Sutta, which helps us to prepare ourselves meaningfully and to act meaningfully when someone passes away.